Y'all prepared us for that part. Abstaining up until I do.
Yeah.
But nobody is prepared for, okay, how do I have sex after I have the legal license to be able to do so?
I think that just as you were talking, I mean, I could totally be wrong. This is just me. But I think that maybe the reason why it's not talked about after marriage is because, one, it exposes the fact that there are some imperfect marriages.
With me having to relearn, reprocess, rethink what sex was, that was like taking a part of my identity away.
Just because you may need to seek help or you may be in transition and things may not be right, it doesn't necessarily mean that your marriage is bad.
Marriage is a roller coaster ride that never ends.
From the twists of having children, to the turns of overly involved parents, or the highs of buying a new home, to the lows of unexpected lifestyle changes.
Marriage is dope, but let's be honest, fam. Marriage really be tiring.
Welcome to the Left Hand Gang podcast, hosted by Jazz and Spoon.
What up, y'all? It is the Left Hand Gang. We tapping back in with y'all today. We hope y'all are good.
Gang.
Gang. How you feeling, baby?
I'm feeling okay.
You okay? So why just okay? What's that all about?
Well, we can just tell the people that, parenting, it just don't always go the way you want it to. Like, we was getting ready to record, we was set up. Everything was groovy, and somebody decided to spit up everywhere. And it was on me.
Yeah.
So
I feel that.
I had a little attitude because
I feel it.
I think I still got a little attitude.
Okay, and that's okay. You can have those.
I'm tired of being thrown up on.
I feel it. He got me like 4 times yesterday in the span of like 5 minutes. So, and like it was big spit up too.
All the parents understand.
So yeah, and so for our listeners, just FYI, if y'all hear some grunting or some kicking or some noises, just know we got a special guest hanging out with us today. We got the man King Cod tapped in with us today, so he gonna be hanging with the Left Hand Gang. He's featured in this episode.
How are you today?
I'm all right. It's been a pretty good day. I got to work on that dissertation, so I got to dissertate a little bit today, and so, once when I get to working on that and I make a little bit of progress, I'll be feeling good. I ain't got to do nothing else. Like, if I could just work on that, even if it's a comma or a period, I'm good. Yeah. So, yeah, I did good today because I worked on my dissertation today. I did.
Way to be disciplined.
I'm trying. And the Lord has given me grace with it.
Amen.
Yeah, man. So, baby, what you want to talk about today?
Let's talk about sex, baby.
I'm like right now, we can do it.
Okay, that's afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna get some afterwards. Hey, in the name of Jesus, I give me some afterwards.
Did you say in the name of Jesus?
Yeah, in the name of Jesus. This is covenantal sex, baby.
Yes,
it's
different.
Lord. It's different. This sex, it hit different.
It do. See what you did there?
You see what I did there?
Yeah,
you see what I did? Okay. Yeah. But now we're gonna tap in and talk about sex, man. So many different sides of it, perspectives of it.
Yeah.
Different experiences, even, and I would even say, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word that church people use? It's like covenant, but it's not carnal. That's the word. Carnal beliefs that a lot of us believers believe are true or believe to be true about sex. And so we just want to tap in with that and really get into that because that's a topic. Yeah. This is a thing that, it's just... it's supposed to be the image of God, and it's been taken, out of its context, out of its proper place. And it's just being seen. Okay, Kairos agrees, but it's just being seen in so many other areas, and it's being glorified outside of the context that God has called for it to be glorified in. And so that's what we want to get into. Like, I guess, what comes to mind whenever you think about, like, I guess, sex in general?
Well, now what comes to mind initially is Pastor Michael Todd's relationship goals.
Yeah.
That was such a really dope series that I believe our generation needed. And he had one episode that was titled Sex in a Container that transformed my entire life. And it really helped me understand the beauty of sex too. Because, you know, when I used to think about sex before marriage and before listening to that sermon, it was like, okay, like the me growing up, it was like, oh no, sex is so bad, right? Like at church, it was like, don't talk about it, don't do it, don't ask any questions, you're gonna get pregnant.
Yep.
You know, like that's it. So I took a stand of abstinence growing up, like out of fear. You know, like I didn't even want to know any more about sex. All I knew was like the sex jokes that all the boys made in school, you know, and like all the innuendos and all that. But like I just didn't really understand what it was until I was older. And I'm thankful that I was delivered from that. And I think that our generation needs to be delivered from faulty thinking, because if you enter into your marriage with improper education of what sex is, then you risk both of you, for one, not having needs met. You risk the enemy coming in and using sex as a weapon against you. You risk, and in that, there's so many things you can unpack in that, from pornography to, I'm drawing blanks right now, but there's like so many different things, you know, that can, adultery, things like that. So to answer your question right now, what I think of sex is it's this really beautiful thing that God created for married couples, but it's also very hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you're married and life is happening, and it's not this fun thing that doesn't matter. You know, it actually matters in marriage, and it doesn't matter outside of marriage when it comes to relationships. So,
man, and you said a whole lot of stuff that, man, I want to like unpack all of it. But the main theme that I heard was like the stages that we go through where what we believe about sex is, it kind of, I guess you would say, it has compound interest. Like it means one thing, and then over time, it's like that thing plus this other thing that I learned, plus this other thing that I learned, plus this other thing that I learned. And the fault in that though is, what if all those things you learned was wrong? Or the first thing, you know, that we learned was actually wrong. And I know that a lot of us, especially in our millennial generation, was taught sex illegitimately. We were taught it the wrong way. I mean, some of us, you know, we learned it through our uncles or older cousins. Some of us, we learned it through, you know, in high school and passing around pictures in a locker room and talking about it. Yeah, high school, middle school, you know, even today it's like elementary now, you know, with social media. But you know, we have all these different definitions of what they mean. And, you know, to even go deeper, you know, with some people where they were molested, that's where they learned about sex. Yeah. You know, when they were improperly touched by someone that they trust, that's when they learned about sex. And I mean, you know, we're taught, you know, don't do it, but never have I ever, and I'm not playing the game, but learned when to do it. When was it okay? Yeah. When was it okay to ask or to pursue, or when to put it on the table, or when to acknowledge, yes, I do, and when to acknowledge, actually, I don't, in its proper context. Now, we all know, obviously, outside of the context of God, you know, we know that, but in the context of God, the only thing that we're taught a lot of times, well, I'm not going to say only, but the main focus is not to do it. But okay, I've become abstinent, and I have a relationship with God, and I found this girl that I like, and we remained abstinent, and we got married. Y'all prepared us for that part. abstaining up until I do.
Yeah.
But nobody is prepared for, okay, how do I have sex after I have the legal license to be able to do so? You know, I can do it now because it's, you know, in the comforts of a godly marriage. It's in the confounds of that. But I don't even know how to do exactly what I actually have the right to do.
I think that just as you were talking, I mean, I could totally be wrong. This is just me. But I think that maybe the reason why it's not talked about after marriage is because, one, it exposes the fact that there are some imperfect marriages. Because for some reason in our society, we think that all marriages are perfect, or they should be. Like, that's the standard.
Yeah.
And in us talking about how do you have sex after marriage, it exposes the fact that people don't know how, and that's actually a problem or issue. And then if you expose that, then it's like, well, dang, why even wait until marriage, right? If, like, you know, if it's not going to be as great, you know, what am I waiting for?
Yeah.
And I think that also sets people up for failure. You know, like, just going back to our journey, you know, and being transparent, because that's what we're here for.
Right.
You know, we were abstinent for, you know, the exact month, the number of months, the minutes, the seconds. How long was it, baby?
It's 18 months.
18 months before we got married. And that was very hard. And we have a video out talking about our journey, and it was the best experience ever, even though it was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But when we got married, it was like, how do you, why does it feel?
Is it okay if I touch your ankle?
Why does it feel weird?
I don't want to be disrespectful.
Like, we went from, you know,
full on rabbits,
just out of control.
Man, it was
and
fun.
Then, yeah, it was great. If people tell you that your sin is not fun,
Man,
they lying, bro.
Sinning.
They lying, bro.
I had some fun
before the conviction kicks in. But so yeah, we went from rabbits, we went abstinent, and then marriage, and it was like just different. And that has been a journey that we're still walking through.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you feel like, you know, that's something you resonate with, please know that you are not alone.
You're not.
That is something that I learned after I got married, talking to some of my married friends. I learned that there are lots of wives, most, not all, but many wives struggle with having sex after marriage. It's libido. It's just desire. Ultimately, it's the enemy, right? It's a full on attack, honestly. But like, our roles change. Like, now it's like I feel secure in my husband, and like I'm loved, and I'm happy where I am. Life is great for me. Not that I was having sex to try and get him, but like, now I have him. And so what was a need to feel close to him and secure is not a need anymore. But it's a need for my husband. And now trying to understand that just because it's not a need for me, it's a need for just my husband, it doesn't make it insignificant. And making the time for that is the struggle of the wife.
Could you dig in that just a little bit?
Yeah, I guess. What part?
Well, you know, you just talking about the struggle and basically serving, you know, because it's not that important to you as it used to be. Yeah. But now, you know, you see that it's important to me. I
know that, and I didn't learn this until later in life, that men are created to release, and they are created to feel loved through sex. That is how God designed them. That's just
I didn't ask for this.
Who
bro.
Y'all are.
I didn't ask.
Which is and we look at it as a negative thing, because we'll say like, oh, you know, men can just have sex with anybody, you know, and it doesn't matter to them. They don't have emotions connected to it. And it's because it's fueling something, you know, like it really is like how you can keep going in the day, how you go from day to day. It's your ego. It is your emotion. It's just your general makeup. And for a woman, sex is not that. Sex is, it's kind of a job. Like, at least when you become married, it is. Like before marriage, it's like, oh, I get to feel sexy and, you know, like somebody wants me. But after marriage, it's like, sis, the cleanup alone. Okay, can I get an amen from any of the wives out there? Just the cleanup after sex. Like nobody talks about that. The movies, they don't do that.
No,
they don't do that.
They don't have a towel next to the bed.
They just go like, they be like, you want to go another round? Like, you know what I mean? They're just wrapped up and covered, but they don't talk about the cleanup. They don't talk about the day that you've had all day as a wife, you know, like, and for a woman, you got to turn the car on and warm the car up before you can have sex with her. And for men, it's like, let's go right now, anywhere, any place. And so when you get married, there's just a big difference in what sex looks like for a woman and what it looks like for a man that you don't really pay attention to before marriage. And I have learned that, again, sex is a need for my husband. It is not just, I mean, it's fun, yes, but like it is something that he genuinely needs to keep going and to love me and to be my husband. And I have to remember that because it is a need, it has to be met. It's not an optional thing. And sometimes that does mean mustering up some strength. That does mean going to God in prayer. Now, that does not mean that like I'm just like, you know, I have an attitude and I lay there, you know, like, because that's not fun for my husband.
Yeah, that's kind of whack.
But it does take some strength on my part.
And like, whenever you said that, like men, we're created to release. The thing is with us men, we have to be responsible in that, especially whenever, you know, we're not married, we have to be responsible. And I don't want to say curving that appetite to release, but knowing this isn't a place, or this girl or whoever, this isn't a place that I should be releasing into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a territory I need to be all up in. It may look good. It might even be fun to even think about. But, you know, us releasing in places means that we have felt that place was safe. We felt that place was a safe place, a safe zone, a safe space. And what ultimately happens is, you know, when men release, and, you know, obviously we're not talking about a physical release, but there's a spiritual release, there's a psychological release, there's an emotional release, there's a huge release into someone, into this person, into this woman or whoever it is, that makes you feel as if, okay, I can always go here. This is a good place for me. And then what happens is, outside of marriage, this person hurts us. They hurt us in a way, hurt us in a place where we didn't anticipate getting hurt at. And so we take that and we move on to the next one, and then we move on to the next one, and then we move on to the next one, and then we begin to compartmentalize and how we release. And then we take this thing and we make it just a physical act, and we take the God out of it. You know, and so we're not supposed to be releasing any and everywhere that's gonna holler back at us. Amen.
Amen.
You know, we have to be able to have discipline, and as Paul says, beat ourselves into submission, beat our flesh into submission, and knowing that we just gotta not necessarily hold out, but, you know, substitute that, you know, with the presence of God. Know that you're gonna feel how you feel, and you're gonna ride the wave. It's gonna go up, but eventually that wave has to come down. You know, and we have to do a better job of putting ourselves even in certain positions, in certain conversations, away from certain people that don't really need that appetite, don't really, you know, crave that attention. Because we know, fellas, we need to stop following certain pages on the ground. You know, we need to stop going to certain brunch spots on Sundays. Amen. You know, there's some friends, in the group chat that be sending pictures and gifts and videos and blah 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 that we need to we there's some group chats.
Somebody was convicted today.
Right. There's some group chats we gotta get out of. There are some Twitter pages we gonna have to stop. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So we gotta be careful about the areas, that we put ourselves in too, because we get ourselves in trouble.
You said something about, we have to be careful about compartmentalizing, and then, we release and then we move on. And it reminded me of something that I learned about sex. And, back in the day, there weren't like these grand weddings that we have today, and, there wasn't this huge ceremony and all this. When they got married, it was after they had sex.
Yeah.
Was it consummation? Is that a word?
Yeah,
consummate. And, so if that's what solidified the covenant, that is what solidified the marriage. When we lie down with someone and we have sex with them today, that is essentially what we're doing. And we carry on. You moved on to another person, but we carry on their baggage, their demons. We carry on, we carry on a piece of that person. And essentially, Pastor Michael Todd asked this question, so how many people have you married?
Yeah.
And my heart sank because it was like, no, God, no, I didn't want to marry them. But it's like, if you don't want to marry them, then why did you have sex with them?
Yeah.
And if sex is so powerful outside of, I'm sorry, not outside, but if that is what sex means, then think about how powerful it is in your marriage.
Yep.
When you do come together and you do have sex with your spouse, that is it's like you reignite, the fire. And it's not just like a love and a passion fire, but it's also a spiritual thing that you have. It's like you came back together as one.
Yeah.
And you are saying to the enemy, no, we still here, fam.
Yeah.
Because that is a huge area. There are lots of reasons that lead to divorce these days. Finances, and communication. But sex is a really big one.
Yeah.
And people don't talk about it because it makes the man look bad, right? It's like, oh, you couldn't get none, or you couldn't get up, or, whatever. Everybody just assumes. And then the woman somehow gets this power because she gets to withhold if she wants to, which is a very negative thing. And you should not do that.
Man. Because
we just talked about how that is an essential need to your husband. And as a woman, you should not, you shouldn't withhold that. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And that's like your husband saying, I ain't gonna never tell you that you look good again, or I ain't gonna love you no more.
I'm not gonna protect you.
I ain't gonna protect you no more. You on your own. And the word even talks about that. If you two decide, and this is me paraphrasing, and correct me if I'm wrong, pastor, minister. If the two decide not to have sex, it should be a decision that they both made, and it shouldn't be forever.
Right.
They should go their separate, or decide that, but to submit themselves to God, and to pray. But then they should come back.
Yep.
And we forget that come back part. And I believe that that's on both parts. It's not just on the husband. It's not just on the wife. That is something that the two have to continue to fight for, and make time for, and commit to doing.
Man, that's powerful. Kairos agrees. And let's talk about kind of sort of shifting gears for a second, but the different aspects of sex alone, because whenever Jazz was talking about, you were talking about coming back and all that other stuff, and we reignite. This ain't, it's not like this super duper movie version of extremely passionate sex.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Because the way that we have been sold, this dream that we've been sold about sex is It's like, and I like the shout out to Jenna. She uses beautiful,
Jenna
beautiful
Mountain?
imagery. Yeah, Jenna. Like, sex isn't always like the Texas Giant. It big, big drops and these goes crazy turns,
Yeah.
and
You
it's
got the
not
rose
like,
petals out, the candles lit, the R&B going,
like, bro,
the lingerie.
going for like hours, and that's not real.
Yeah.
And
they don't talk about it.
like sex covenantal sex, let me be clear.
Right.
Sex within marriage, within the confounds of God, sex should be coming together, should be synonymous with coming together to talk about finances.
That's good.
It should be synonymous whenever it's coming to get synonymous to coming together and talking about the kids, what school they're going to go to, their education. It's essential, and it's a part of the marriage. And so it's going to seem redundant in some areas. It may even seem kind of just, this is what we normally do. It's not spontaneous like they make it look in the movies. It's not supposed to be like that every single time.
Right.
Sometimes, fellas, you may not get yours. Ladies, sometimes you might not get yours.
Yeah.
But it's the point is coming together and being one, because that's the only time that the husband and the wife are one unit, is in whenever they come together through sex. And so whenever we get into like that, we have these false expectations that, it's supposed to be this strong, passionate, loving, and bro, it's not that all the time.
Yeah.
It's, like, I got the do-rag on, she got the bonnet on, you got about 15 minutes.
Right.
Great. That's all we need.
Yeah.
That's all we need. But, when I think of like even, middle school, high school, when we listen to music, when we think about, we were talking about this other day, like Pretty Ricky and Usher, Pretty Willie, and all that stuff that we listen to. They would be singing about having sex for like hours.
Right. And
bro,
all over the house.
All over the house.
In the bathroom, at the club. And
like, bro, I don't have time. I gotta go to sleep. I gotta get up and go to work in the morning.
I'm tired.
I barely got 30, 45 minutes to give.
And if you got kids,
man, that's a whole nother, you know what I mean? So, in that, we got to be able to talk about expectations,
Yeah.
with when it comes to sex. Like, what is it that you like and what is it that I like? When I do certain things, do you appreciate that? Whenever you do certain things, I actually don't like it when you do that. But we feel like we're not supposed to talk about that. Like, it's supposed to be a surprise. Why? I'm married to you.
Why?
We're going to be together forever. So I might as well know what you like so I can do what you like.
Yeah.
If it's not like, it's kind of like cooking. Like, if Jazz continues to cook and doesn't really ask for my input, she is liable to make something that either A, I'm allergic to, or something that I have a disdain for. And guess what? I got to sit there and suffer because I'm grateful. Like, really? No, we should ask questions. I'm sorry, I kind of ranted, y'all, but I had to get that off my chest.
I think that's important. That sex doesn't look like what they paint the pictures and the movies to be. And, even going deeper,
Yeah.
I've been hanging out with you too much.
Yeah.
Even going deeper, like, a realization, we talked about this before, was, like, men are taught, you're supposed to be able to last, as long as possible.
Nah, son.
And that's not necessarily, that doesn't make you a bad partner if you can't. And as you get older, you change.
Yep.
And your wife changes. Your bodies need different things. Like, sex is not always gonna look like it did in your 20s.
Nope.
And unfortunately, no one is saying that, and there's no safe place for men to know that and for women to know that. And so people get in these marriages and then they start trying to compensate. So they're buying Viagra, or they're using pornography, or they are looking outside of their marriage because they think something's wrong.
Right.
And it's not that something's wrong. It is natural for our bodies to change. It's natural for things to be different. And like you said, your sex is not always going to be exciting. It's not.
Nope.
But that is not a negative thing. People use that to say, you're going to have sex with the same person forever, for the rest of your life, or I want something exciting, so I'm going to look outside of my marriage. No. It's beautiful to stay in the same thing. And, sex is not always just so that you can have an orgasm, like you said. I don't know if you explicitly said this, but it is for you to come together as one. So I think when we transform our thinking and we re-educate ourselves, I think that our marriages can be even more powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And to really double down on that, we have a lot of believers who have godly sex with the worldly mindset.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's like, if we understand that we're having sex or we're coming together for the glory of God in our marriage, not for the glory of how loud I can make you yell. Not for, all that other stuff, but coming together for the glory of God. That is what strengthens our marriage. And what we don't realize in marriage, or whenever, we're having sex, this is one of the very few times where you're not only naked, but you're also vulnerable. You're naked and vulnerable with your spouse. Now, you shouldn't be naked and vulnerable, naked for show, with nobody else, but naked and vulnerable. I can see all of you and you can see all of me. And when we come together, I feel all of those things and you feel all of those things. And you're able to see things and feel things that maybe I can't even explain. And vice versa. Because there are some things, and I believe this with everything in me, that whenever a husband and wife come together, there's a conversation that happens that you can't articulate with words.
It's like a healing almost.
It's healing. There's, like I said, conversation. There's so much happening in that 5 minutes. In that time that there's a conversation. And fellas, if you're too busy trying to get to the destination, you may miss the conversation. You may miss what your wife's body is saying to you.
That's really good.
You may miss it. Ladies, if you're too busy trying to hurry up and get this done, like, oh my God, I had to feed the kids, I had to go to work, I had to come home and I had to cook and blah, 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 and do this, do that, and serve everybody. Now I got to lay down with my husband. If you're so worried and concerned with all those different things on your mind and so focused on trying to check this off of your list for the day, you may miss what your husband is saying to you. Because, we ask people, we tell people, you can be honest with me. You can share with me how you feel. You can talk to me. Some things I can't talk about because I don't even have a vocabulary for it. Some things I just don't have the words for. But when we come together and we have that spiritual connection, that physical connection, that spiritual connection, we're having a conversation and you're more in tune with my feelings as I am with yours. So we have to see it in its fullness and what it is, and not just, oh, I got to release because I had a long day, or, man, we need to hurry up and get this done because I need to get into bed and go handle my business and go to sleep or whatever.
Yeah, don't be afraid to pray.
Man.
Together or separately. I'm going to be honest. There are many times where I have to pray and ask God. And the dope thing is I can do that because it's covenantal.
Yep.
But I have to pray and ask God for the strength. And you know, I used to be an educator, and one thing I would say is, God, I have served all day. Like, I have given and poured out to these dang on kids all day. Everything that they needed, I gave. You know, everything that I had, I gave. You know, I have cooked dinner. I have gone to work. I worked out. I poured back into myself. My husband needs me. So I need you to give me the strength so that I can be the wife that you called me to be. And he will. Because my heart was in the right place. Now he knew, because I would be saying, you know, I technically would rather go to bed, but my heart and my spirit knows this is what I need to do. And, you know, give me the strength to be able to do that. Don't be afraid to pray. And ask about that, or pray to get your mind together, pray to get your heart together, your body together. Lord, you know, let me at least get a little warm for dude. Like, you know, whatever your prayer need to be, sis. And don't be afraid to pray together. We've had to do that as well. You know, coming together, praying right before sex, praying, you know, maybe earlier in the day or whenever, about that specific thing, because he's the same God that answers our other prayers. He's the same God who, you know, opens doors in other areas, and he knows just how important this is, and the enemy knows just how important it is. So don't think that this is something that, I can't go to God for. God created sex. I think we forget that.
Right.
He literally made it for married couples.
That was the first thing he told Adam and Eve to do together as a couple.
Yeah.
Be fruitful and multiply. You know, man, what was I about to say?
Can I say something while you think?
Yeah.
Do you have it?
No.
Oh. No. Dude. Do y'all kids be hemming y'all up by grabbing y'all's shirts and stuff?
He was asleep.
Yeah.
He woke up.
I know. Dang, I lost mine. Oh, okay. This is backtracking. Yeah. But when we were talking about abstinence and men just being able to redirect those emotions and stuff, it made me think about when you're married. You know, if you and your spouse decide to have children, there's a time where you will not be able to have sex with your wife. Yeah. And I mean, there's also a time every month.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's an extended amount of time when children are being created, and after they're born, you know, that postpartum time. And there are many men, and I'm not just shaming men right now, but for this specific example, there are many men who may not have the stamina to be able to withstand during that time. And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because it can create resentment between the wife and the husband, and it can also create division, and it can push someone to step outside of their union because something feels like it's missing, and you know, they don't have the power to be able to withstand. And stepping out could be with another person. It could be emotionally. It could be physically. It could even be with a magazine. You know, it could be with a video. And so there's power and importance in being able to say to my body and my flesh, I command my flesh to not do this. You know, I have control over that. And if you can control, this is something that, you know, you've said before, if I can control my body when it comes to sex, I can control my body with anything. I can do any diet. I can do any routine, exercise regimen, routine. You know, I can accomplish whatever it is that I want to do. That's how powerful sex is, especially for the man.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because towards the end of pregnancy, and then when he got here, you know, that was a long 6-7 weeks postpartum. But I had to fall back on my training. I've
been here before. I know this.
Because it was in those 18 months when we were abstinent where I learned not only how to control my body, but I learned how powerful I am over my body when I move things out of the way, or when I put certain things in perspective. And so it actually empowered me on how powerful I can be whenever it comes to doing anything. Because if I know how important and powerful sex is to me, and I can control it to the point to where I don't have an attitude, or I don't necessarily feel like I gotta go, I gotta get my fix, and I'm not pressuring my wife to like, hey man, just bro, just lay there, bro. Dang. like I reached a point, you know, to a point to where I was like, I'm actually more powerful than what I thought I was. You know, because, you know, in that, you know, part of our relationship when when we were abstinent, you know, I was also delivered, you know, from pornography as well. So there was a progression of me overcoming things relating to sex. You know, we were abstinent. I was, you know, trying to figure out what in the world am I finna do because this is hard. And I mean, everything was hard.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was. And so I began unfollowing certain pages on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And I mean, there was men and women, you know, certain things that men posted, you know, relating about other women. I mean, there were certain things, certain group chats that I had to leave, that I had to get out of because they would pull on me. And that led up to me letting go of pornography completely. And so I'm like, man, may as well go for broke now. So, I mean, there were so many things that I had to let go of. And so once, you know, we reach, you know, postpartum and Kai getting here and Jazz, you know, healing up after giving birth, like, I was like, I've been here before. I can do this. And the cool thing was, sex really wasn't even on my mind like that because I was more focused on you. I was more focused on him. I was more focused on, you know, okay, we got to get this house together. We got to take care of this, blah, blah, blah. So I had other things occupying my mind. And
but you had the mental capacity to do that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because of what transpired.
Oh, because of my training?
Yeah, because of your training.
Definitely. So, but like you said, you said some, yeah, that struck a chord. You know, you bringing that up because, man, it was a...
Did you ever remember what you were about to say?
No.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It just wasn't meant to be said. That's okay. Yeah. So, all hearts and minds clear?
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think we're good. I feel like I should be saying something else, but I ain't got nothing else. So
I hope that I just hope that there was something said today that freed somebody.
Yeah,
you know,
for real.
That's my prayer.
Yeah,
because there were a lot of things that I didn't know going into marriage about sex, and even just growing up. And I pray that somebody is just healed. You know, somebody's delivered from faulty thinking, or, you know, is like, yes, I'm not crazy. I remember I was right. You know, like, or there's a light bulb that happens. That's my prayer after today's episode.
Facts. I'm right there with you, baby. I feel that. Let's get it. Is he asleep?
Yes.
Okay, bet. Because we finna go have covenant. We finna go worship.
We finna go worship.
We finna go worship in the name of Jesus. Yeah. So, man, we love y'all. We thank y'all so much for tapping in with us. We catch up with y'all next episode. Peace. Thank y'all so much for tapping in with the Left Hand Gang podcast.
Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and rate us.
And lastly, please don't forget to check out our website. That's lefthandgang.co for merch and ways to stay connected.
Catch you next episode.
Gang.